When we think of really exciting, ambitious digital marketing campaigns, we tend to think on the consumer side. We almost somehow imagine that that isn't possible within B2B marketing. But of course, that is nonsense. So I just want to run through a few of the most common mistakes made within B2B marketing and some potential remedies. So the first is around brand. So quite simply, most B2B organizations don't really have a brand. Even if they have a brand identity document, they don't have a true brand. They're so terrified of saying the wrong thing or communicating to too narrow an audience that consequently all of their messaging is very, very generic, very, very safe. They don't actually cut through the noise and they don't communicate with anyone in particular. The second issue is around their content strategy. So again, most of them just don't have one. Consequently, they talk very much about their world as opposed to focusing on the things that interest their target audience. So for example, if their target audience is owner-managed businesses, they need to be talking about the things that interest business owners. That could be sales, leadership, marketing, culture. Now, of course, at some point they have to find the intersection of those two worlds and work back towards the thing that they sell so that ultimately they can convert that lead. But they have to begin on the terms of their target audience. The third issue is around influencer marketing. So again, we tend to think of influencer marketing as something that's very much within the consumer space. But of course, every industry has its influencers. So going back to our example of owner-managed businesses, well, if that's our audience, then we need to be trying to engage with business owners within our target sector or within our target region. Not only is this going to lead to infinitely more interesting content, but they're then going to share it with their audience, who 9 times out of 10 is going to be the audience we want to get in front of. The final thing to say is around paid distribution of content. So very often they'll be happy to create a blog post that might take half a dozen hours because that's using a resource they already have. But they're then terrified of spending another £5 or £10 promoting that content on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter. And consequently, they may as well have not created it in the first place and nobody sees it. So these are some of the most common mistakes. Of course, there's many more, but every now and again you'll encounter a brand that is the exception to the rule. And because these exceptions are so rare, they tend to be able to achieve remarkable success on relatively conservative budgets. So just make sure that you are one of those exceptions.